Here's a question from Alpha X Omega. With all the rich people hoarding Bitcoin, do you think a millionaire is going to be considered middle class in the future? I know they say Michael Saylor will be the world's first trillionaire. I don't know how many rich people are actually hoarding Bitcoin, to be honest with you. I think that there's a percentage of them for sure. I just don't think it's a large amount. None of the rich people that I know hold any Bitcoin, or that I'm aware of anyways. The funny thing about Bitcoin, and that I've noticed in the last couple of years, is that just because there is such like a negative connotation within society around Bitcoin, that a lot of rich people, they don't really tell anybody that they have Bitcoin. I talked to a couple people, I think it was last year, but this is a kind of familiar story. I've seen it a few times. But people that I never would have expected to own Bitcoin or even know anything about Bitcoin, when it comes up in conversation, you have to pry a little bit. But I found out that they've actually been mining Bitcoin for like 4 or 5 years. Rich people, very well-respected people within the community, were mining Bitcoin for longer than I've been in Bitcoin. And that was a real shock to me. But at the same time, it really makes sense because, one, the negative connotation around it, I think that's part of it. But the other part too is that that's just a rich person technique. They don't tell anybody what they're doing. They do it and then they talk about it, maybe if they want to. But they're not like, hey, I found this new stock, everybody go buy it. They buy it first, and then they let it play out. It's exactly what BlackRock did with Bitcoin. We watched a video on BlackRock's Bitcoin journey yesterday on the second part of the show. And the guy was talking about how he was hired back in 2018 at BlackRock to dive into the Bitcoin thing in 2018. And it was in his 2021 when Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, came out and was bashing Bitcoin. So just think about that timeline there. 2018, BlackRock hires a Bitcoin person, a team, to start getting into Bitcoin. And in 2021, 3 years later, the figurehead of BlackRock comes out and says that it's not worth anything, talking very negatively about it. So that's just how rich people roll. It's smart, honestly. I don't have that ability for myself, but I find something, I have to text 10 of my friends to tell them about it. But it's different. It's different. Because to me, it's like, if you're going to be rich, I feel like you want all your friends and your family to be rich. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a whole lot of fun. So I do think that there's going to be a lot of new millionaires created from Bitcoin, just to answer your question there a little bit. And I really don't think it's going to take that much. I think that's what people get wrong right now most, is that they think that they're going to have one full Bitcoin, one whole coin, in order to have wealth in the future. And I think it's going to be closer to like 1 million sats. I think that that's what everybody should be trying to get towards, 1 million sats. Because you have to keep in mind here that every single person, every single company, every single country, and every AI on Earth is going to want Bitcoin. And we cannot create more Bitcoin. There's only so much of it. So, I mean, you don't have to do any specific math. You just can use logic and do quick math in your head to figure out how much one sat's going to be worth. So I really think that people should just be striving to start to get to 1 million sats. And in Canada right now, that's about $800. And I think in the US, it's about $550 or $600 to change your family's future, change your entire direction of it, just with that small of an investment. And do you know what people spend $600 on nowadays? I was at my grandma's yesterday, and I shouldn't, release any. I love my grandma though. She's hilarious. I had a whiskey with her at happy hour yesterday, and she's going for surgery today for her tooth. And she was telling me how much it was going to cost. And she said, well, it's not the cost I'm worried about. She's been kind of an entrepreneur her whole life. She's been a caterer. And she's like, I think she's in her mid 80s. And she probably works harder than most people my age. Still, she doesn't see very well. She had some issues with her eyes a couple of years ago. But she's like, I don't really care about the cost. I just want to get it done. I'll be making pierogies for the next 20 years anyways. She's in her mid 80s right now and still just going not full bore, but anyways, she said last year she worked like she was 50 years old again. But where was I going with that? What were we talking about? I don't even know. So shout out to my grandma anyways. What were we talking about there? $600. That's what it was. She got a magnifying glass so she can read text better. And it cost her $600. Like you go for supper now with your family or another family too, and you pay for it. It's $600. So I just think that most people are really underestimating how much Bitcoin they actually need to make a dent in the future. It's not that much. I think if you can get to 1 million sats at this stage, and you have to keep in mind here, and this is maybe a part of, I'll add this to my goal here, because you have to keep in mind here that the time is ticking. We're moving into the Bitcoin bull run. It's coming this fall. And I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of like the landscape of the world, but there's a pretty good chance that we're going into a Bitcoin bull run. And so I think that this is going to be the last couple months here where we can actually buy Bitcoin for under $100,000. And if you actually sit down and look at the difference between buying $1,000 worth of Bitcoin at 60,000 versus $1,000 at 100,000 or 120,000, like you can see how much less Bitcoin we're going to be able to get for fiat in the very near future. So we just added that to the goals for 2024. I see Majory. Major? Is it Majory or Major? Major doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Majory. But that's also not really a name. Major. We'll go in Major. Good morning over on Zap.stream. All right, there's a lot of comments here, and I'm sorry I'm kind of falling a little bit behind. I'll give a couple shout outs here. We got HFLM. The future is bright. Happy Tuesday, Bitcoiners. Very bright. The future is very, very bright, especially if you're here right now. But even if you're not, this is another thing I think a lot of people get wrong. Even the people who aren't here right now, even people who won't buy Bitcoin for the next 5 years, their future is still bright. Because we're moving into a world where we're going to have an asset like Bitcoin that's backing everything. When you have something that's fixed, and that's what you're valuing the world on, that's how you're keeping track of your productivity with a fixed currency, a fixed asset, everything changes for everybody.